Welcome to this ADF Insider Basics seminar. My name is Shai Schmelzer. I'm a Senior Group Manager at Oracle, and in this session we'll give you an introduction to the Oracle Application Development Framework, also known as Oracle ADF. Oracle ADF is a framework Oracle has developed with the goal of increasing productivity and ease of use for our Java developers. The focus of the framework is on providing a visual and declarative development approach when building Java applications. It simplifies your development efforts by taking care of the plumbing of your application. This includes things like object relational mapping, controller layer, a user interface layer, security, binding, and many other aspects that are common to the requirements of building enterprise applications with Java EE. The framework also implements a lot of the best practices around building those type of applications, which are already baked into the framework itself. When building applications with Oracle ADF, you're also directed into an architecture that is service-oriented based, where you're going to build reusable business services in one step of the development process, and then you'll be able to reuse them across multiple user interfaces and other applications. Oracle ADF is based on industry standards in the Java EE space and the SOA space, and gives you end-to-end coverage for all the layers of your applications, from your user interface to your backend services, through security and customization as well. We've been using Oracle ADF inside Oracle to develop our Fusion generation of application. That's our next generation of CRM, HCM projects and other enterprise applications. We've also been using parts of Oracle ADF for development of various middleware components such as Enterprise Manager, the administration consoles for our SOA suites, and also for the development of Web Center and other line of business applications. But nice things about Oracle ADF is that not only Oracle people can use it, but any customer can pick it up and use it for their own application development. The goal of Oracle ADF is to provide you with a way to build various user interfaces accessing various sources of data and business services in your organization. So whether you're targeting web user interfaces, desktop user interfaces, mobile interfaces, or even Microsoft Office interfaces, and whether you're accessing relational databases or legacy systems or existing Oracle applications or any web service exposed service, ADF will sit in the middle and allow you to build those applications. Let's look at how Oracle ADF fits into the overall Fusion architecture for building application. In this slide, the picture is actually divided into two sections. The top section is what you might call your traditional enterprise application. You start with a database, and on top of the database you're going to build various business services. The business services will interact with the database, getting information in and out, as well as doing all sorts of validation and simple processes according to your updates. Then you're going to access those business services from a multitude of user interfaces. Again, those can be web user interfaces, mobile user interfaces, Office user interfaces. The nice thing is that with ADF, you're developing the business services once, and by using a generic data binding layer, you'll be able to build multiple user interfaces accessing those business services. The lower part of the slide represents our SOA suite. Over here, the core functionality comes from the mediator, which runs business processes. It uses the Beeple language, and it allows you to create flows of various business processes invoking various services from various locations. Some of those flows might depend on rules. For example, if you have a flow that is responsible for expense approval, you might have a rule that governs in which cases the flow proceeds automatically, in which cases actually need to involve a higher level of management. Those rules can be extracted into a rules engine and then be modified at runtime as needed as business change. Another part of the SOA suite is the interaction with human workflows. So again, in the example of an expense approval, if the manager needs to approve an expense, we need to notify the manager, he needs to take action, and then the process can continue. So for those cases, you have the human workflow services provided by the Oracle SOA suite, and those can be exposed and used again as services inside the Oracle ADF user interfaces. To monitor all those business services, you'll have our BEM capabilities, and again, those can be exposed and used in the user interfaces developed by Oracle ADF. The business services that you developed using Oracle ADF can also be integrated into the mediator and exposed either as web services that you can call from those various processes, or they can actually even invoke events that can start or advance various processes. In addition, any BPL flow or any web service, in fact, can be exposed through the same data binding layer and used in the various user interfaces. So that's where Oracle ADF fits into the overall architecture we call the Fusion architecture. And again, Oracle ADF is mostly focused on the upper part of this slide. Oracle ADF is based on an MVC architecture, the Model View Controller model for building application. This model allows us to better separate the layers of the application and increase our reusability and flexibility in adapting to changes. Oracle ADF also offers you a choice of technologies that you can use to build the various layers in the application. If we'll start with the view layer, you can build desktop application either using Swing or using Microsoft Excel as a front end. You can build mobile user interfaces, or you can build browser-based user interfaces either using JSF, and then you can use the ADF Faces components to make a richer UI, or you can use simple JSP as well. If you're building a web user interface, you'll probably need a controller layer. So for JSP we offer support for struts, and for JSF and ADF Faces application you can choose to either use the core JSF controller or the extension we built on top of it called the ADF controller. In terms of business services, you can use simple Java classes, EJBs, ADF business components, web services, the BEM data control, BPL data controls and other data controls as sources of information and services for your application. We have a unified binding layer that allows us to leverage each one of those and expose it in each one of the user interfaces you've saw before in a consistent way. Let's look at some of the core functionality that most of you will be using when building web applications using Oracle ADF. In terms of the user interface, Oracle ADF offers the ADF Faces Rich Client components, and that's a set of over 150 components that you can use to lay out your pages and develop them in a simple way. Those components are AJAX enabled, which means that they have rich functionality built into them, which saves you a lot of the coding that otherwise you would need to do using things like JavaScript, CSS and things like that. The components have a pluggable look and feel, so you can actually skin them and change their look and feel. They support accessibility and internalization. And beyond all the usual components such as button and checkboxes and tables, we have very rich set of other components that includes charts, Gantt, geographical map, pivot table, calendars, carousel components and others. Beyond the set of components, Oracle ADF Faces also includes a lot of framework capabilities such as the ability to do drag and drop inside your browser, to pop up windows and dialogues, an active data framework that allows you to do push into the client, as well as templating and declarative components creation. On the business services side, while you can use standard Java classes or EJBs, one offering in Oracle ADF is the Oracle ADF Business Component. And that's a framework that was specifically developed with 4GL developers in mind, people who are familiar with more visual tools and are familiar with SQL and traditional relational database and how you access them. Oracle ADF then makes it simple to build data access layer for those type of developers. You simply use SQL to define your business objects. It's very easy to then define validation and business logic on those components. You have a strict separation between the data views and the actual business logic, so a separation of layers in there as well. And you have a lot of best practices built into that framework. The framework also provides for easy customization of the components once they have been created. In order to connect the business services and the user interface, we're using the ADF binding or ADF model layer. The ADF model layer is based on JSR 227, and it basically abstracts the structure or the implementation of the business service from the UI developer. So no matter if the business service is based on ADF business components or a simple Java class or a web service, the UI developer sees them all in the same way and is simply able to drag and drop them into the page when building an application. This increases the reusability. It makes your application less coupled between the services and the UI, and it at the end of the day provides more productivity when building the application. Oracle ADF provides built-in data controls for ADF business component, Java classes, EJBs, web services, XML files and CSV files to our URL data control. The BEM data control and the BPM task lists allow you to interact with the Oracle SOA suite. A UCM data control allows you to interact with content management system. SBase allows you to interact with BI information. Placeholder data controls allow you to more easily design a user interface even if you don't have the actual business services already implemented. And you can also build your own data control. Another layer of ADF is the ADF controller. This layer allows you to have better separation between the model and the view, and it basically extends the JSF implementation of the controller layer. One key difference between JSF and the ADF controller is that while JSF provides you a way to navigate between various pages, the ADF controller extends it to allow you to navigate between pages and functions as well. This way you can actually build a process flow rather than just a page flow. You'll build those flows in a diagram in a very visual way. And one other aspect that is unique to ADF controller is the ability to build the reusable flows. Reusable flows can be reused inside other flows. Okay? They can also be reused inside other pages. In those cases, you'll be able to run a complete process flow with several subpages running inside a section or a region of another page. This brings into question things like transaction and memory scope management, and the Oracle ADF controller allows you to control all of those aspects. Let's see a demo of how we actually develop an Oracle ADF application. So we'll start by creating a new application. When you're creating a new application in JDeveloper, you can choose to use the Fusion Web Application template, and this basically brings in all the ADF components for a web application. So let's create an ADF demo application and just continue from here. This automatically will create two projects for you. One project would be the model project where you'll create your business services, and the other one is the view controller project where you create your user interfaces. And then you can follow step-by-step instructions for creating this project. We're just going to do those by heart. So the first step is creating our business tier. And again, the default Fusion template includes ADF business components here, but you can also create other type of business services such as web services, top-link JPA, EJBs, etc. when creating the business tier layer. So we're going to start with the ADF business component and just connect to a database. And again, this can be an Oracle database or any other type of database. And once we have the connection established, we're going to go over and check which tables we have access to using the data dictionary. So we're just querying the data dictionary, figuring out which tables we can use in our application, and then picking up tables that we would like to use. Again, running through this wizard, what we're actually doing is creating a set of business services that will allow us to interact with the database using the ADF business components part of the framework. You can further tune your application. For example, if you go to the employees object and you look at attributes, you can do things like add validation for salary to check for something. So for example, compare salary and make sure that it's greater than 0. And of course, define an error message, for example. There's a bunch of other things that you can define in this layer. For example, you can go and define list of values for attributes. If we look, for example, at job ID, it's very easy with ADF business component to go and say that we need to get the job name from the job view based on the job ID as a connecting field. Choose what type of display we want to use here and which column to actually show there. So this is how you define the business service part of your application. Next, we're going to very easily create a new JSF page, and again, this can be based on a template or on a quick start layout. We'll do that. And now you're inside the visual editor for an ADF Faces page, where you can basically take components and just arrange them on the page like that. Then set various properties. For example, have 2 sections to that page, add a tab component, visually change the title. Add other parts to your screen like a panel collection, maybe a couple of accordion components. Click on it and rename it to depth. Okay, and we can very easily add another accordion after this one, just like that. Now let's use ADF binding to actually connect our business services to the page, and to do that we use our data control palette. We can say our department and just simply drag and drop it into the page to create, for example, a read-only form that will allow us to look at various departments. Now each department also has employees that relate to it, so those are the employees working for this specific department. We can drag those over here as a table, turn off various behaviors on the table, remove columns or rearrange columns as we need to on the page. And then we can also show the same employees over here in a format with a button to submit the changes. Okay, can resize the layout editor so we can more easily see what's going on in here. Another thing that we can very quickly do, insert another tab here, rename this tab to be graph, and take the same result, and just like we used the drag and drop operation to create a form or a table, we can use it to create graphs. Again, using the same concepts, can easily define the binding between the business service and the UI component. Right. Let's run our page now. So as you can see, it's very easy to just drag and drop components, define business services, create a page, and then connect the two using simple drag and drop. Once our page comes up, we can actually go browse through various departments and see the employees being updated here. And when we click on specific employees, we can see the details down here as well. We can also see a graph of the salary of the employees in a specific department. Again, with ADF Faces, it's very easy to achieve even richer functionality. For example, if we pick up the table component and turn on the behavior for column selection, we'll get more functionality that the tables is able to do. If we pick up the graph component, we can turn on other behaviors such as animation on display, where we can set it to auto, or a representation of the picture of the graph in 3D. Let's save it now and reload the page. Now when we're looking at the table, we can actually freeze specific columns, scroll the rest. We can also rearrange columns simply by taking them and moving them around, or for example we can also filter the table to get specific records based on conditions. If we look at a department that has more employees, for example department 50, we can see another behavior that the table provides us, and that's the fact that when we drag the scroll bar down, you'll see a fetching records message coming up. This means that the table fetches data as needed from the server automatically for us doing AJAX transaction. And of course when we click the graph tab, we'll now have animations showing up in a three-dimensional graph. Let's look at two other aspects of ADF, and that's the ability to bind to other sources of data first. So we just saw how to use ADF business components. Now let's do a very quick demo of how you can take basically any Java class. Let's create a hello class with a method in it. Right. We can have a parameter here, and the method can just return like that. You can also expose other properties, for example if we create two other properties with getters and setters, we'll be able to reference them in the data control. So all we need to do in order to use this little business service with its little method in our page is to expose it as a data control. So we can do it by clicking here. The class itself is not changed. Everything about the class is defined in an XML file that was created. And over here we now have the hello class exposed as a data control, which means we can start dragging and dropping it into our page. We're going to do another little demonstration here of the ADF task flow. So we're going to create a new ADF task flow, and we'll call it the hello flow. And we're going to mark it as a train flow. Train flow is kind of a wizard flow where we have one step after the other. Then we're just going to lay out a specific flow of 3 pages. First page would be the welcome page, then the data page, and then the results page. Okay. Note that into this flow we can also drag things like methods as well as routers as needed. In this case we don't actually need those, so we're just going to remove them. Click on the welcome page to create a new page, and again, because this is a train flow, we can actually use the train components. Let's take the train component, which automatically binds it to the train model that runs our little process. And then this is our welcome page, so all we're going to show here is a simple output text that says welcome to the hello flow. Let's take the second page. Second page, we're actually going to invoke a method from our data control. So again, the layout is going to be very basic for this one, where we just have the train component and the train buttons. But on the page itself, we are now going to take the hello say hi method, and we're going to, this method has a parameter called name. We're going to drag and drop it as a parameter form into our page, okay, with a button that would actually allow us to invoke it. Last step of the wizard, it's going to be the result page. So again, we're going to use the train components in here. Also the train buttons. And we're going to show the result of the method, which is this string being returned from this method in here. Like that. Right, now that we have this flow, we can actually reuse it across our application. For example, if we go back to our page, the page that we designed initially using ADF, we can expand the second accordion component, and then we can just take this flow and drag and drop it as a region into this section of the page. So this region can be changed at runtime. You saw an option to have a dynamic region where we can actually dynamically change what is going to be displayed in the page at specific times. Let's run the page. When our page comes up now, it's basically the same behavior as before, but in the additional accordion that we created, we actually have a wizard going on. Right? So this is the first step. We can't jump directly to the third step. We have to go through the second step, where we can specify a name, click the button, and then go to the next step to get the results. Again, because this is a wizard, we can go back one step, specify another name, click say hi to invoke the method, and get the results on the third page. So in this demo, you saw how easy it is to actually build an application that accesses both the database as well as a simple Java class, and to create a simple one-page or multiple-page interaction all embedded into the same application. Finally, let's discuss some of the additional core capabilities that you might be using when building with Oracle ADF. One key aspect is mobile access to your data and information. Oracle ADF includes two solutions for mobile access. One of them is called ADF Mobile Browser, and the other one is called ADF Mobile Client. Both solutions extend your existing application and reuse your existing business services when delivering mobile application. You also use the same development concepts, same development tool, and same development framework. The mobile browser solution allows you to build applications that can be accessed from the browser on your mobile devices. And the unique aspect here is that ADF knows how to adjust the user interface to the specific capabilities of the specific browser on the mobile device. Using skinning, you can also achieve a more native look on specific devices. The ADF mobile client actually runs the full application on the mobile device and allows you to work in a disconnected mode as well as interact with native capabilities of the device. In this case, you'll be extending the existing business services, creating a controller layer and a user interface to run on the device itself using native widgets. The nice thing here again is that you'll be building the application once, and ADF would be able to run it natively on different devices. Another type of user interface that Oracle ADF allows you to do is using Microsoft Excel as a front-end. You basically build Excel spreadsheet that connect to your Java Business Services using the Oracle ADF binding. This provides a very familiar working environment for a lot of your end users. It also allows you to work in both connected and disconnected mode, and it allows you to again leverage the existing business services and security that you built into your Oracle ADF application. A unique capability of Oracle ADF is to do declarative runtime and design time customization of your application. The challenge here for many applications is that once you develop the application and deliver it to various users, each users would have specific personalization that they would like to do on the application, and in some cases it's not just UI tweaks but also changes in the way that the application actually behaves in specific rules, etc. In the past, you would have needed to create several base documents, each one addressing specific user. With Oracle MDS, we actually rely on a single base document, and then we overlay it with specific on-site branding, line of business branding, and specific user personalization, all maintained in additional XML files. So those customizations are being kept separately from the core functionality that you built into your base document. This means that when you release the second version of your application with a new base document, the same modifications and customization done by the end user can still be applied to your application, and this alleviates the toll of customization on upgradability of applications. ADF also includes a complete security framework that allows you to secure the access and functionality provided to each user to your application. You can define users and roles, and based on those can define specific business services operations that are allowed for each role, specific task flows that users can operate, and specific UI components that they can access or see. The actual user and role management is externalized to the Oracle WebLogic Server security platform. As you can see in this page, we've defined users and roles, and then we can define specific access to specific business services, pages, and task flows. In summary, Oracle ADF provides you a complete and integrated development framework covering all the layers of your application and multi-channel access to your business services. ADF takes care of the infrastructure for your application, and it offers a very visual and declarative development approach to increase your productivity. Thank you for listening to this seminar.